Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately called IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, which is comprised of 23 different countries, all focused on promoting the child's right to play. In our efforts in the US to promote play, we're happy to introduce Porch Play Chats. And these are conversations that focus on a wide range of topics with folks that are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find the latest Porch Play Chats at IPA-USA.org. And every Monday, we release a new one on our YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to, and on our Facebook page. So I'm Deb Lawrence, president of IPA-USA. And with me on the porch today is Lisa Murphy, our co-facilitator. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, good morning.
And Dr. Walter Drew. Dr. Drew, if you don't know about Dr. Drew, you are in for such a treat. Dr. Drew is a visual artist and renowned researcher and presenter on hands-on play. He helps children awaken, and adults, we'll talk about that in a minute, awaken creativity. He strengthens practitioners' practice in working with children, and he generates hope and optimism and healing across the lifespan. And that's what he so believes in, and that play does that for everyone. So he is the director of the Self-Active Education, which is his Institute of Learning, and it was founded in 1980. Dr. Drew has two books, one of which he's going to talk about today. He's also the creator of Dr. Drew's blocks, and if you haven't ever played with those, you need to order them right now. And he also has a blog on Drew Thoughts. And so all of that will be at the bottom of this YouTube video, because I'll have all those resources for you. So Walter, welcome.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Deb. And thank you, Lisa.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's really quite an honor to be in the presence of two world-renowned play advocates, Deb and Lisa. Thank you for your work in promoting play in the lives of children. I appreciate you of many years, both of you. I've known you and I like you both a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walter.
Yeah, you bet. So this is the book that I'd like to share some information about, called Self-Active Play. It's available on Amazon and it's not expensive. And it was written by a dear friend and colleague, Marcia Nell, and myself. Marcia served for many years, over 10, I think, as the director of professional development and research with the institute that Deb mentioned a moment ago, Self-Active Education. And she would be here today if it wasn't for the fact that her family's been blessed with a new baby, a little boy named Ashley, who was born, I think, yesterday.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
Please excuse her absence, but she asked me to say hello on her behalf, and also to say that this book is an extension of the first book we wrote, From Play to Practice, which had a specific focus on young children because it was published by NAEYC, and of course, that's their big thing, young children and families. So a word or two about this book. I think the first thing is the purpose really was to highlight how important it is for adults who are especially working with children or parents to really understand play themselves through experience by reflecting on their early experience, but also by having a chance to engage in professional development experiences that immerse them in the process of self-active play. And the book starts off with really highlighting all of those early educators who laid the groundwork for us, starting with Friedrich Froebel and Pestalozzi. A note on Froebel, incidentally, the Institute is named after self-active education, which is a word coined by Froebel, in the 1800s. His work, in my heart, is all about awakening the creative spirit within the child, which he calls divine. So we keep that in mind in thinking about play. It's more than content like math and science and literacy. It's all about identity and self-realization for adults as well as children. In addition to Froebel, there's another wonderful writer, Brian Sutton Smith. He's probably the most prominent theorist in the 20th century. Added to Brian Sutton Smith is Tom Hendricks and his great work on play and human development. And he talks about self-realization as a way of play helping us become healthier, happier human beings. And this is all written about in this little book in the first chapter. The second chapter is all about, well, what is self-active education? Can you tell me a little bit about it? Well, there are principles that over the years we've kind of discovered from our research. These, for instance, the first principle is about how when you take a few moments to slow down, calm yourself and focus your attention, immediately what happens is that there's a flow of creative energy within you. And that energy is a safe, very safe context for developing knowledge about yourself, whether you're a teacher or a parent or whomever you are, businessmen, to discover from the intuitive inner connection, which is another phrase that Froebel uses, make the emotional connection with play yourself. That's a wonderful way to help parents understand how important play is. Parents need to have experiences themselves. Well, there are 6 other principles that you can read about, and they're wonderful, and they're all based on research. So the theory came from the research rather than the reverse, which is important. Well, what else is in this book? Well, I'm happy to report that in chapter 3, one of my favorite chapters, there's an exquisite description by a pre-K teacher, Ellen Grogan, a teacher here in Brevard County, Melbourne, Florida. She's a teacher of 26 years in the classroom. Oh, I want to tell you, I'm also going to post a video of Ellen Grogan working with her children in the classroom to illustrate this process. It's an 11-minute video, pure and unedited, that I'll post on my my blog. It's called Drew Thoughts. Anyway, it's a revelation of what she does and how she does it. And then there are descriptions about how you could do it if you want, some suggestions, specific suggestions. How do you do solo play with 20 or so kids? Where do you start? And how am I going to deal with the time constraints I have as a teacher? And what about my space? You know, anyway, there's some answers to that. And as we all know in our hearts, it's a worthy battle for us to advocate, to protect play in the lives of children. This is a book that will help you do that. Well,
and Walter, one of the things I'm hearing though is that it's not just a book, it's a book that's filled with all the research, I mean decades of research, and all of the theorists that underlie the principles of self-active education. But what I'm also hearing is that it's practical strategies for what you do in the classroom in order for you as a teacher to feel comfortable playing and to allow children that freedom of choice. And so, you know, sometimes I think we get so you have to do this and this and this, and oh my God, the parent-teacher conferences are coming. And so we move away from what we know works. And then sometimes I think it's because we don't feel comfortable. We feel like we're not doing enough if we're just allowing the children to have that choice and that time, and we slow down a bit. I think slowing down is the secret to all of this. But so that's what I'm loving about what I'm hearing so far, that it gives teachers permission to try some things. It shows them examples of how to do it. So you've talked about why you do it. And and then you're inviting them to play with the
And
idea.
also, I think giving permission for that, I call it that pre-play pause,
Mhm.
and being comfortable sitting in that quiet or sitting in that space of what an adult might interpret as indecisiveness or that they're not doing anything, and honoring that and not thinking that it has to be anything other than what it is. And I have found that through the years that gets a little easier. I think you age into being more comfortable with that as a practitioner. And not needing it to look like everybody's busy in order for me to feel like I'm doing my job.
Yeah. I love what you both said. Thank you for reiterating and extending that. Yeah, absolutely. So freedom, absolutely, Deb. Freedom is the essence of this form of play experience.
Mhm.
To trust the process and let the child or let the adult have a free range of exploring materials and those interconnections they make spontaneously. That's what self-active education is. And Lisa, I agree with you. There's a tendency not to necessarily be comfortable in just being in that state, but it's an imperative. The calming, slowing down, mindfulness, creative contemplation, being with oneself, listening to oneself is so important for our children to learn to do. So the more we demand their attention outward and neglect the attention inward, we're at a loss in our future civilization because we don't listen to ourselves, our own heartfelt palpitations and intuitive self, which is one of the principles. So if I may, chapter 4 is brilliant. It's an whoever wrote this book, I want to tell you, I recommend it. And chapter 4 is an in-depth study of kindergarten in Manatee County, Florida. It's about professional development. It's a study of what happened when, so I think his name is Dr. Drew, when Dr. Drew provides a series of play experiences, first with his blocks and then with open-ended materials with 46 kindergarten teachers. And then what happens in the classroom with those kindergarten teachers implementing play in the classroom, and what the children do and what the teachers do together. Now, that's a really neat chapter. And that part is with Michelle. I don't know, Michelle Compton and Beth Sevison, you may know, just recently wrote a book called Storytelling. It's very popular, published by NAEYC and I think Red Leaf Press. I have to slow down. I'm just getting excited here to realize that what Beth is talking about in her book, it's all about, and it's about when you play and you have an experience, you want to talk about it. You want to share what happens in that space. So stories arise spontaneously. And if there's anything connected to literacy and reading development and oral language skills, it's encouraging and allowing and making sure children have a chance to tell their stories. And so this book parallels that. It's the stories of other people, including those wonderful directors. All right, so I'm just going to go on to chapter 6. Chapter 6, let's see what it says here. I'm going to read the little thing up top here. It says therapeutic benefits of self-active play. In conversation with Marcia Nell this morning, the author of this book, she said, one of the things I like about this book especially is it extends our first book, which was predominantly about working with children. This book delves into other dimensions. I like to think of those dimensions as zones of proximal development. This one, let's see what it says here. Play provides a singular opportunity to build the executive functioning that underlies adaptive behavior at home, improve language and math skills, in life, build stable attention and nurturing relationships that buffer us against toxic stress and build social emotional resilience. A wonderful quote.
Whose quote is that, Walter? May I ask?
Yeah, it's Yargman, Garner, Hutchison, and Patty Hurt, Passett, and Galinkoff. And
Yeah.
in the book, I can get it to you later. Yeah, a great quote, as you can tell. But just to highlight that, it's what's in this chapter. You know, Fraser Brown is a retired professor from England, and he wrote a piece in here that's wonderful and connects it to the principles, two of the principles. It's about his therapeutic work with abused children in Transylvania. Some of you may know of that work. And he talks about the power of this form of play in easing the distress for those children.
Mm-hmm.
In the same chapter, this is written by my daughter. This is one of my children. I have 7 children, and let's see, I have 4 sons and 3 daughters. And this was by my daughter, Terry, who's a nurse practitioner in California working with veterinarians, veterans who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and so forth. And she's been applying the practice with those folks and others in her work, which is a very interesting study of what happens. I think last of this chapter, I hope this is not a bore to all of you here present. It
is not, because Walter, what I'm hearing again is that play isn't just in early childhood, play is interdisciplinary. You can take the practices and the principles of self-active education and you can apply them to the business place, you can apply them to the medical profession, you can apply them to social work, you can apply them to, it's everywhere. And I think that is what we have to lift up, right? That people still think play is just recreational, that you just do it as a break from daily life instead of seeing it as a way to
be your daily life.
Yes, to get through your daily life too. Yeah. And I'm just going to tell you one short little anecdote. So I took one of my classes out to play at the college, and it was difficult because these are students that just have graduated from high school like a year ago, and they had a difficult time getting into play because they're not used to playing. And so then, we got the parachute and we went over and we did all sorts of crazy things with the parachute as a group. And I had tons of choices out there for them, but the parachute was their favorite. And the 2 days later, I had them reflect on that experience. And one of them said, when I got to school that morning, I was just so mad at the world. I was mad. I was mad that I had to get up. I was mad that I had to drive to school. I was mad. She said, after we played, I was happy the rest of the day.
Yeah.
It totally changed my day. And I think that is a huge lesson, right? That for everyone.
Yeah.
I think the more we become comfortable, like what you said, Deb, of extending the importance and the value outside of just the early childhood realm, I also think that assists not that, and I hate this word, not that it's ever my job to convince anybody that play is important. The research is already out there, right? I'll link you to the article that you need, but it's a good reminder, even for people in the profession who are aware of the value of play in the early childhood realm, that it continues throughout the lifespan. That's what I was really locking on, Walter, when you were just talking, was that lifespan piece. Like you could bring this into like a convalescent home, an Alzheimer's, dementia care, inpatient, outpatient, and still, not that it's being tossed out with a therapeutic intention, but it might end up having, like, this byproduct of it could be therapeutic. And then with your daughter, where it is intending to be a therapeutic device, like it rises above and has place, I think, in so many aspects of our world, of our life, of our community, and our culture. And I think the more often we can shed light on that, the more accepted play just as a concept it would become.
Yeah. I'm so glad we're adding to each other's comments. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Lisa. Some of that in part is what the book is about. Specifically to your point, Lisa, in this chapter, there's the work that Marcia and I did within the assisted living communities for elders, and it's called Quality of Life. And I don't know if you can see these. There's a picture here of a woman in a wheelchair in assisted living. And it's the story of what happened to her. We use not only objects, but we also use paint. I love the process of playing with paints as a medium for uncovering these very values that we're all sharing. I also wanted to say, to Lisa's point, that it's not, I don't feel like I'm trying to, well, I am in a way, but it's not like I'm trying to sell you on the idea of play being important across the whole lifespan. It's more like trying to give you personal testimony of my own existence. And this is real evidence, folks. This is not made up. And the work we're doing with families who are suffering from, what we're all suffering from in this culture around the world. And play, as you were saying, Deb, is a medium for healing. The lady who comes to school fragmented and all upset and takes a few moments, like you said, and quiets down and gets her mindfulness, her presence back, her power. That's an instant of healing. Healing one from the suffering you mentally, that you hurt your brain when you live in a society that drives you some ways or from oneself. Anyway, so that's,
I got to add something very important to that, Walter, that now as a pre-service teacher in Deb's community college class, there is a person, a human, who has now potentially for the first time had an experience that could directly impact her quality of teaching and her muscle memory of now going, you know what, I got a kid walking in the door who is pissed off at the world today for whatever reason. And now I can remember back to a time when instead of locking on that emotion, that heightened elevated space, maybe I'll go get the parachute.
Or the blocks.
Or the Play-Doh or the paint.
Whatever. Absolutely.
Whatever. And meeting them with this play device or this play connection, this human connection, as opposed to this emotional trying to control you connection. And that's pretty powerful.
Again, I'm so grateful for the sharing we're doing, which calls to mind another part of this book. You don't mind if I bring it back to this book?
No.
That is why we're here. That is why we're here, Dr. Drew.
That's what we're doing. This is applying self-active play with grieving children and families. This is a center run by Health First, our big medical community here in the Space Coast. And the work that we did with their staff, with their parents, and with their children, applying this process as a way of healing. I'm going to focus on the adults for a minute, since that's a hot topic outside. It's the way of helping the adults understand what they can do when they face crisis. So anyway, there's a couple of illustrations here. Perhaps I could read a short one. There's two. I'll read this first one. So the parents were in one room and the children were in another. They also came together and played together. But this was with the parents. There were 12 parents, and they all had an opportunity to focus inward, to calm down, to relieve that stress, suffering. They might have lost a husband or a child. There are a number of illustrations. This was serious grieving. So this woman starts playing with these color beads. And this is what happened. This was probably or maybe 10 minutes of open exploration. I wanted to string the beads together at first, but didn't have any string. This is from her journal. So I just placed the beads where I wanted to spell my angel's name. At first, I thought I might just make a pattern with the beads, but then I thought to spell her name. I cried because it just makes me think of her and I miss her. It also reminded me of the beads of courage that she earned during her treatment. She got different beads for every different treatment she had. She got red beads for each blood transfusion, white for each of her chemo treatments, yellow for each night she spent in the hospital, etc. She earned a butterfly bead when she died to earn her butterfly wings. Then I used the remaining beads to form a heart to signify my love for her. I feel this is a kind of thing that happens when we're in distress, regardless of its severity, whether it's just a little, I'm not real focused today and I can, or this ongoing distress where you close down for more than a few minutes, all of a sudden, about this. We all experience this. So the important thing to mention is, in the book, it gives clear evidence of stories told by the people and why they're important in healing. And that's certainly what Brian Sutton Smith and all of his writing, specifically, and I quote, play was always intended as a source of healing. Okay. I think, there's other stuff. We talk about the parent workshops. This was at the center in Miami, the Miami Center, United Way Center for Excellence. And what was significant about that? It was at the end of the school year, and the director, Paula, wanted to have her parents play with her kids. So she invited me to come down and do a block play workshop. And in this was a dance room. It's a beautiful facility, mirrors all around with windows. And on the floor, I put a whole bunch of blocks and red and yellow caps and purple foam cylinders. There was even a puppy that came in the arms of a little child, carried right in. I have some pictures of this. I'll show you later. I'll put that on the blog. Anyway, it was the transition for parents who were working hard all day. These are busy families in Miami, and they had a moment to come together early in the evening. And the kinds of things that they discovered in their play, I'll just mention a few. In their journaling, which they did, they talked about how enjoyable it was to see how other families play together.
Oh.
They said what wonderful ideas they got from seeing how the children responded to their own play. They had a chance to talk with one another and make new friends. So this is really, underscore again, a way of building relationships, not only outside, but a relationship with oneself, that divine inner being that holds the total record of who we are. Not just the simple examples you see on your screen now in these, images, but there's a whole history to our whole existence. And that becomes accessible in this form of play, self, the whole self. So in the contemplations and in the cooperative play and solo play, there's an opportunity to access that higher consciousness that dwells within all of us. That's what Stuart Brown was saying. And he also added, it's all about brain development and executive function. This, to use those topical terms, but so important to me, especially as I age now, I'm 82 going on 83. I would like to use more art and making things as a medium for healing. I'm in my studio now and I use that. I'm practicing that, both for my own enjoyment and as a realization of why it's important in this work we're all doing. I want to understand it experientially myself.
So Walter, I hear so much just in that. So, and I have my sister, so I'm the youngest and my sister's the oldest, right? So I'm old, but she's older. She's like 21 years older than I am. And when I went to visit her, in June, she was so excited. She's always been very creative. She did floral arrangements and gift baskets, and she's much more creative than I am. But one thing that she had really gotten into at 84 was doing painting and decorating birdhouses.
Mm.
And she had these beautiful birdhouses that she would go and she would decorate. And she said, that's my time. That's where I can just let the day go and I can just focus on something that I really enjoy doing. And it was lovely because she was so excited about them, and they are beautiful because she's extremely artistic. And so, I think about that with what you just talked about with this, sometimes we don't get that feeling of peace until we're older. So if we could just get that a little younger, we might live longer, right? But the second one I was thinking about with the families that you were working with is the Vygotsky zone of proximal development was all over the place in there, right? Because they were watching how other families played together, and they were watching how different children approached the same material. Oh my God, okay. So everybody has to get this book and read it, because I haven't ordered it yet, but I will order it today.
Yeah.
Because, it has so many lessons in it with actual scenarios and the research that supports it, that, we need to send one of those to every policymaker who's thinking about that play is just recreational.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, wait, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. There was airplanes. So my thought listening to you both is there seems to be, for the most part, I'm going to overgeneralize for a minute, that if you're under the age of 5, the general community, society, culture at large is willing to make room for the fact that you want to express yourself potentially creatively, breaking into song, dance moves in the grocery store, painting, Play-Doh, crafting, whatever, using clay. Like there's room, well, really, for the most part, to make room for that. And it also seems that we're willing to make room for it if you're over 60. So imagine how beautiful our existence would be if we stretched the permission, so to speak, up from being 6 and downward from being 60, and allow ourselves to break up with that need or that thought or that notion that we have to break up with that level of creative, self-actualized play and self-expression. Like it seems pretty cut and dry. Like if we're willing to grant permission on the front end of your life and the last end of the life, why do we think the middle piece somehow isn't allowed to have that?
Yeah.
I think it's a great point.
That's right on, Lisa. Yeah, definitely. Well, let's see. There are a couple of other things. Are we okay for time, Deb? What's our setting?
You have like 1 minute left. So I know it just goes too fast.
Well,
It goes too fast.
Let's just, I don't know if this is possible to do, but I gotta try. I'm curious.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see something.
I was just thinking of the process, and in a minute, here's really what it, oh, look at what I got here. What is that there? Wonder where these came from. I just found them the other day. I think I'm just gonna, oh, and this is really nice. And what's in here? Something in there.
Ooh, sparklies.
Wait, I don't know if you can see these things. And then
we can see
over
them.
Here, I got these other little things. This is what I'm calling self-active play, believe it or not. I'm simply taking a few moments and allowing my fingers to connect with what I see. My hands, my heart, and my mind just enjoying arranging things, if you will, said another way, organizing, just contemplating possibilities spontaneously. There's nothing oh, look at these little things. The only thing I did is I gathered these materials. I had no idea what I was going to do with them. And then, so what I'm doing now is a moment of what I call one of the most enjoyable things that I do when I get to do it. And it's not like I get to do it all the time, but when I do it, I find a great sense of enjoyment simply by messing about in this David Hawkins way, you know, just creating these patterns and designs. And I have these little sticks. Where can I put the sticks? Maybe one would go in here. I don't know. No, I don't think it will. How about over here? So the spontaneous problem solving. Oh, I did it. And that joy that I had in that moment and a way of conveying it to you is what I believe children enjoy and helps them feel that stronger sense of who they are, what they like to do and how to do it, and eventually who they become. So play is a medium really for the finest human development that we can provide for children. It's the surest way of getting their attention to find out what they're interested in, who they are, and what they want to do next. So listening to our children, allowing our children to listen to themselves, in my view, is perhaps the most important thing we can do in early education. And play, if you can think of a better way, please send me a note, let me know. Play that involves the whole child, wholeness of being.
And the whole adult.
And the whole adult, yeah.
Absolutely. Walter, of course, always an amazing Porch Play Chat. So I will put the new book and the first book up on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't gotten either book, you'll have an opportunity to see what they're about. And then, Walter, thank you so much. So don't go anywhere. So for more information on other Porch Play Chats or to join IPA-USA, please visit our website at IPA-USA.org. And until next time, keep on playing.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Walter.